our freedom that we're enjoying today. So I thank all the veterans out there for your service.
Mr. Denham?
As a Gulf War veteran, somebody who served my country honorably for 16 years, as well as having many family members that were willing to wear the cloth and serve our country as well, I think it's our utmost duty to make sure that those benefits that not only do our veterans deserve, but when they come home, we better make sure that we uphold the promises of government. So I've been out there working on behalf of veterans at a bipartisan level. Tim Walz is a Democrat from Minnesota. We've started now. I chair the Jobs Caucus, the Veterans Jobs Caucus in the House. We have one in the Senate now, so it's bipartisan, bicameral, working with businesses all across the nation. But there's a bigger problem right now, and that's making sure that our veterans, who have the best training in the world, make sure that that actually has them certified to be able to take a job when they get home. So I'm proud that not only did we offer a bill, but it was signed into law by the President, who's been out there campaigning on it, that will get our veterans certified while on active duty so that the day that they come home, they'll be able to take a job that they've been promised. Now we have states all across the nation that are passing similar legislation. So whether you're a truck driver and that takes a state certification, now with Jerry Brown signing that, the companion bill, we're changing the rules as we know it all across the nation. So veterans like me that come home and need 3 more years of certification, even though we've got some of the most high-tech certification in the world, we make sure that on day 1 you're able to get a job.
Thank you. Thank you. This is our next question on the topic, and Mr. Denham, this will be yours first. What is your position on the DREAM Act and/or path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants?
Well, there have been a whole host of number of different DREAM Acts in the state. I think we saw 7 or 8 different versions. Now at the federal level, Marco Rubio and David Rivera, Congressman, and a Senator Wolf have versions. I think that we have to solve our overall immigration policy. We need to make sure that we are dealing with E-Verify, which is in the Judiciary Committee right now, that also has a guest worker program. So we need a comprehensive solution. In fact, I recently took a very strong position against the STEM Act, which provided working visas. But I don't believe that we can piecemeal this together. We have to have one overall inclusive policy that deals with everything. And we need to make sure that we have a pathway to citizenship that allows my in-laws, who became citizens legally, to be able to use the current legal process. That if you serve in the military and you're willing to fight for our country, you ought to be able to get citizenship. But when we're looking at our higher ed system, we should not put somebody who's here illegally ahead of somebody that's willing to fight for our country. That's how we can for our veterans first.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
Well, there's no doubt that when you have over 11 million undocumented workers in the country, the system's broke. You need some type of comprehensive immigration reform act. And like Congressman Denham, I don't believe that piecemealing it is a solution, but rather coming together at the center of the table, working across in a bipartisan effort to come with a solution is the real answer. However, reality is reality. Time is passing by, kids are growing up, and they need an opportunity. They've been here in this country to no fault of their own, and they need an opportunity to get a college education. And so this is why I'm for things like the Deferred Act, the DREAM Act, because we need to be able to have our kids continue their education. There's an old saying out there, that if we don't educate our kids here, the country that out-educate us today are going to out-compete us tomorrow. I, for one, don't want to become a second-tier nation, so we ought to afford an education to anybody who wants it. There's also statistics that show that a kid that graduates college over their lifetime earn more than $1 million than a person who just graduates high school. That's a lot of tax dollar basis for the federal government, so it makes economic sense.
Thank you. We're about 2/3 through, so if you can restrain your appreciation for their positions, and then you can chat with them afterwards and tell them how much you appreciate what they have said. Mr. Hernandez, the next question will be for you. What else elements of the Affordable Health Care Act do you either support or oppose, and why?
You know, the Affordable Care Act, it's not a perfect system, but I do tell you it's a better system than is being offered by the other side. You know, the elements I like about the Affordable Care Act is that my kids are going to be able to be covered under my medical insurance till age 26. I like the fact that that my daughters, my three daughters, are not treated as a pre-existing condition. I like the fact that there's equal access to health care for everybody. Those are the things that I like about the Affordable Care Act. Is it a perfect system? No. But is it better than what the other side's offering? Absolutely.
And Mr. Denham?
Well, I believe we've got to come to a bipartisan workable solution, not something that's just jammed through. You can't just continue to listen to the partisan rhetoric. We have to come together on a plan. There are things that we agree on. Pre-existing conditions is something that we agree on. Making sure that students are able to stay on our healthcare system is something that we agree on. So there are things that we can come together on. But there are also other simple solutions. I mean, it's ridiculous that I can buy Geico insurance from New York for my car, but I can't buy health insurance across state lines. Why not create greater competition? Why not lower the cost? We've done it in other parts of Medicare with Medicare Part D. We ought to be able to do the same thing with healthcare all across the board. But let me tell you one other thing. When I was in the state senate, I didn't take the healthcare plan. And when I first got sworn into office in the federal government, when Congress exempted themselves from the Affordable Care Act because it wasn't good enough, I made sure that I didn't take it in Congress either. And that's a commitment that you have from me. I lead by example.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Denham, what is your position on the President's jobs bill?
Where are the jobs? I guess part of my frustration is that the President, even though Dennis Cardoza and I have continued to send letter after letter every time he comes to California, is that he hasn't come here to the Valley. I think he needs to understand that when you shut off our water, it shuts off our jobs. So rather than just throwing over $800 billion as a stimulus project, as a stimulus program, when we have almost $17 trillion worth of debt right now, I believe that we've got to come to real world solutions that affect the Valley. So I don't think that another stimulus package is something that will help create jobs here in my community.
Mr. Hernandez?
Look, President Obama was handed a situation that took 8 years to put together.
Thank you. He's entitled to his position.
It takes a while to recover. Most economists agree that had the stimulus package not passed, the economy will spiral even further down into a depression, not just a recession. So are we fully recovered? No, but we would be in a worse position had that not occurred? Absolutely. And what's the answer forward? You know, it's a tough job. We have to work together. We have to work in a bipartisan effort to solve these problems. Not one side's going to solve it, not the other side's going to solve it. It's going to take a cohesive unit to make sure we agree on how to move forward and jumpstart this economy once again. Is it on the path to recovery? Yes. Albeit slower than what we would like, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. This is question number 14. We're moving right along here. Question number 14, Mr. Hernandez, you will have the first response. What would you recommend to move the United States to greater energy independence?
Well, to create greater energy independence, I think what we need to do is we need to diversify the way we utilize energy, our energy sources. We should not be solely dependent on oil. We should be able to build upon our wind energy, our solar energy, and probably, you know, one of the areas where we agree with Congressman Denham is the pipeline, Keystone Pipeline, where we can bring more oil to U.S. oil. So those are the things that I think we ought to do is diversify the economy. I mean the energy development usage.
true all-the-above plan. Just picking and choosing what type of energy we like and where we're going to give subsidies and giving sweetheart deals to companies like Solyndra. We need to make sure that we're propping up our solar industry by not only greater competition here locally, but incentives to be able to stay in solar. But wind is important as well. We've got great wind power here in the valley, but we still need to look at things like hydro. Building 5 new water storage facilities and actually calling the hydro energy green energy in California would be something that's helpful. We also have biomass. Biomass is a very clean type of energy. That's how we in Stanislaus County get rid of our trash. One of the few biomass facilities that was actually grandfathered in. But we're trying to clean out our forests. We got to use biomass there. We're not going to solve our energy independence problem until we're willing to go after the large oil reserves, not only in North Dakota, where we're going after oil shale, but we have huge oil reserves right here in California, where as a bipartisan Senate, we passed it to the governor signed it into law, and the State Lands Commission killed it by 1 vote. Santa Barbara is not the most conservative area in the state, but yet even in Santa Barbara they were willing to see greater oil exploration there. So natural gas, oil, the Keystone Pipeline, those are things that are going to be important to us to create not only an all-of-the-above energy plan, but create a competitiveness that allows the United States to be competitive with all of these foreign companies and get those jobs back here.
This is an interesting question. Based on the idea, and you get it first. Based on the idea that no one is right or wrong all the time, Mr. Denham, which of President Obama's policies do you support? And Mr. Hernandez, which of Mitt Romney's policies do you support?
Well, President Obama, his Veterans Job Skills Act, which became his idea, I think it's a great plan. I'm glad to see him rolling it out across the nation. That was a great bipartisan effort in the House. I think that the president working with him on the Civilian Property Realignment Act that will actually sell off properties and reduce the size of GSA and a lot of the waste, those are not only 2 areas where I agree with him, those are 2 areas where I'm working with him. I mean, I'm a freshman member that is chairing a committee that is now doing things directly with the administration, with the Senate. So as you've got gridlock in Washington, D.C., you've got somebody that's getting things done and working with the other side and working with the president. So I'm proud that we've actually got policies where not only do we work together, but they're already signed into law.
And Mr. Hernandez, which of Mitt Romney's policies do you support?
Well, I'm not sure I agree with any of them. I do know that Mitt Romney means well in the sense of trying to create jobs here in America, and any effort that he does with respect to trying to do that, if he were president, obviously I would be very supportive of it.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Hernandez, you were the first to respond. Should the government provide loan guarantees to support startup companies?
You know, I think the job of the federal government is not to create jobs, but rather to set up the environment where jobs get created in the private sector. And so from that perspective, I think what the government ought to be looking at is looking at how to make an entrepreneur who's going to start a business, how to make him successful, how to make sure he doesn't or she doesn't get killed by the bureaucracy with respect to starting up a business. Those are the things I think the job of the federal government is.
I think at best we need very, very limited involvement by the federal government. Whenever the federal government gets involved, it seems like it continues to hurt businesses. But the SBA, the small business loans, is a small type of guarantee. I still was responsible for my SBA loan when I started my business. I went home and talked to my wife one night. We took a second out on our home. This was the American dream, but having a small business program available allowed many startup companies here in the Valley to be able to get started with unique ideas, things that the big banks don't understand. Big banks didn't understand my plastics company any more than they understand some of our ag industry here that rely on a lot of local community banks and credit unions to be able to utilize the SBA program. But let me be clear. We cannot afford any more Solyndras or any more sweetheart deals to specific companies. The federal government always gets paid back first in these guarantees, not last. You don't allow the corporate industry to go out and get a handout because somebody's your friend or political donor. You have to have an equal competitive process for everybody. That's why the SBA program is so good. It is a competitive process that I have to guarantee, that I pay back, and that I have.
Thank you. Next question. Do you think you can run a country, a state, or a city like a business?
Okay. I think we could do a much better job, and that's why I proposed a lot of bills that would treat it more like a business. The Civilian Property Realignment Act is something that will get the government out of the business of these properties because they're not doing a good job. They don't have a list of all of our properties, and some of these properties are sitting abandoned right now, creating issues in the local community. So I want to get government out of it. I believe our government's too big. So I want to see a reduction in the size of government and be able to get rid of some of the waste.
And Mr. Hernandez, do you think that you can run a country, a state, or a city like a business?
I think it should be a hybrid of a business because a business only worries about one thing, and that is the bottom line. They don't care how it affects the people as they get to that bottom line. And I think the federal government should be a little more compassionate and take into account the decisions that they make and how they affect the ordinary American. So it has to be a hybrid way of running a business that takes into account how it affects our people, our citizens.
Okay. This is question number 18. And it will be first responded by you, sir, Mr. Hernandez. What is your position on marriage equality, and what role do you see the federal government playing?
Look, I really believe that when there's two people that love each other, I think they're entitled to the same rights and privileges as a married couple. Having said that, I think it's up to the churches to decide whether they marry them or not, but certainly the rights as a married couple should be entitled to.
Mr. Denham?
Here in California, we have Prop 22. I was a strong supporter of that. And I think it's a very, very important issue. One that every voter ought to be engaged in. But yet, out of the 13 elections that you said weren't very important, that was one of the elections that you missed. So if it's an important issue, you ought to be willing to at least go and vote up or down on the issue. But let me address one other thing that you said, because I'm offended. As a business owner, I mean, this goes right to the same line of questioning as you didn't build this. I did build my business. I care about every single one of my employees, and that's, in fact, why I'm not hiring anybody today. I want to expand my business. I want to grow. But before I can grow, before I make a commitment to another person or another family, I need to make sure that I'm going to be able to keep them employed with a high-paying job. I care about my employees, and that's why I've got such a commitment to our business as we grow, making good decisions. But before I can go to a bank and say, I need a loan or I need a credit line based on a 5-year plan, I can't even go to a 5-month plan right now because we have big issues with taxes. We have big issues with what our trade deficit is. We have big issues with immigration, a lot of big things, including the Affordable Care Act, that don't allow me to define my business. We've got to get jobs starting again, but it's that attitude of taking care of our employees first. Answer the question.
Answer the question.
This will be the last question, and it looks like
We
you'll
need
be
to answer
first.
that question.
Excuse me?
We need to answer the question.
His time is up.
Didn't answer it.
Say that another answer.
Yeah, he didn't answer the marriage equality question.
Did not.
Thank you.
Didn't touch it. No one knew it.
Thank you.
Any other answer, Congressman?
Thank
No,
you.
I'm looking forward to you answering a whole bunch of yours. Maybe you'll get that Medicare policy.
Step up.
Thank you.
Step
And
up.
to the,
There's no answer.
I think we need to maintain some decorum, and I do thank you for putting me back in the groove here. I was looking ahead instead of behind. Question was, what is your position on marriage equality, and what role should the federal government be playing? And you can answer the question.
I don't think I can be any more clear. I mean, there's not anybody here that's not familiar with Prop 22, which I supported. Defines marriage between a man and a woman. That's sort of an issue you should have voted on in
Thank you.
Texas during those 13 votes that you missed.
Thank you. I think we now have your answer.
Yes.
The last question to be answered at first by Mr. Denham. What makes you the best qualified candidate to represent the people and the needs of this particular district?
We have big issues on the line right now. We have high unemployment here in the valley. We have an ag economy. I think that we need somebody that lives here locally, that understands our local economy, somebody that farms here myself. We have big issues. We're going to be dealing with tax policy and the estate tax. An estate tax that would destroy every family farm here in the valley if it went up to 55 or 60%. We can't afford that. We have to have an immigration policy, and we've got to come together as Republicans and Democrats to define immigration. I'm somebody that's working across party lines to get things done. I've got a proven track record, not only in Sacramento, but working with the president currently right now today. I'm proud that the president went out and campaigned on my bill to help veterans. That's something that both parties ought to be proud of, and something that in Congress we've now started the bipartisan caucus to address it. But we've got to break down the gridlock. Stop coming up with these phony answers and deal with a real plan. Deal with real issues. Because the people of this district deserve nothing less.
Thank you. And Mr. Hernandez, what makes you the best qualified candidate to represent the people and the needs of this particular district?
Look, I was born and raised in this valley, and I consider myself an average citizen. I don't consider myself a career politician. I'm a citizen politician. I'm someone that you would probably say, wait, he doesn't have experience. Why is he running for Congress? Well, you look at the folks that are up there right now, and I'm here to tell you, it's not rocket science. I think I can figure it out. And in the sense of that, we need to put the focus back in the district. We need to have someone who hasn't lost touch with reality. Someone who knows what the gallon of milk costs, picks it up at the supermarket every day, knows what a gallon of gas costs. Someone who has 5 tuitions, college tuitions staring him right in the face. Someone who has the same problems as the ordinary citizen. I'm an average income earner, and I'm one of you, and that's why I think I can best represent you and solve the problems of the Valley in Washington by working together in a bipartisan effort, because you're not going to do it by yourselves. You've got to work in the center of the table, across the table, to come at solutions.
Each of the candidates will have 1 minute to summarize or give a concluding statement, and in reverse order from the introduction, Mr. Denham will have that first opportunity.
Well, thank you. Let me just conclude by one issue that we did not address tonight is everything that's happening in the Middle East. This is a dangerous time right now for our nation. When we go back, we're going to have to deal with sequestration and we've completely gut our military. It's something we can't afford to do. We've got big issues on the line right now. I served my country for 16 years in the Air Force, served in Desert Storm in Somalia, been to the Middle East several times with our troops. We need to make sure that not only do our troops return home safely, but they actually have a job and are able to get a house when they get here. Big issues on the line. And it's going to take some real strong leadership. Somebody who's willing to work with both sides of the aisle, whether it's popular or not. Not somebody who's going to bring a lot of rhetoric, but somebody who's going to offer real-world solutions. I'm proud to do that. I've been proud to represent this community, and I'd be honored to have your support.
Thank you. And Mr. Hernandez, your concluding statement, please.
Yes, I felt compelled to answer a couple of his comments that Congressman Denham made with respect to my voting record. I think he's just trying to steer away from how he votes. He, in terms of he voted to end Medicare as we know it, voted to end mammogram screening for women. Can't even get a farm bill passed. With respect to payroll taxes, I had a small business. I made a mistake, and we fixed it. Mr. Denham should know that. He's had a couple of tax liens on his businesses, and we'll have to provide the data to the papers to back that up as well. So, having tax liens is not about having tax liens. It's about having the best person who can represent you here in the Valley. And again, I'm a citizen politician who is in step with what's going on here in the Valley and will be able to represent you in Washington and not forget about you.
Thank you to both. about other events that are coming in Turlock and the university here that may be of interest to you. One of them is a candidates forum Wednesday, October 3rd, that's day after tomorrow, for the Turlock City Council. It will be at the Turlock City Hall from 7 to 8:30, local issue. And again on October 16th, here at the University of Mary Stuart Rogers Building, will be a pros and cons of the ballot propositions. The members of the League of Women Voters will be presenting both sides of some of the 11 propositions that are on the November ballot. So we hope that you will take advantage of these opportunities to continue you being informed citizens as you make your selections on the ballot. And this concludes the candidate forum for this evening for California's 10th Congressional District. Especially want to thank President Shealy from the university and Andrew from the CSU as the legislative liaison for coordinating this event with our candidates. Oh, I'm assuming that all of you are voter junkies. So you will take advantage of the opportunity that you have and the privilege of citizenship to exercise your right to vote in November and encourage your friends and family. The last day to register is Monday, October 22nd. So keep that in mind if you have moved, you want to change parties, change your name, whatever, you might want to check that out. Registration forms are available at branch libraries, the county elections office, and of course now you can register online. Again, I want to thank the candidates for participating in the forum this evening, and thank you to the audience members for being a part of it, for the questions that you presented, and for the interest that you have shown in the electoral process. Thank you.